Hello and welcome. We've got a lovely sunny evening here where I am. Hopefully it is where you are too. And we're really excited for today's guest. So just while Sarah gets herself onto Facebook, I'm just going to say, if you're new to us, I'm Claire. I run Insight Hounds. I specialise in sight hounds. I only work with sight hounds and specialise in X-racing greyhounds. And I'm based in the Midlands. And our guest today is going to be Rachel from Boil Broth, but we will just get Sarah to introduce herself and then we can dive right into Rachel and air all the fabulous questions we have for you today, Rachel.
Thanks, Claire. I think Facebook is having a bit of a moment in the heat today, so it's just taking a little bit longer than normal. So hi everybody, I'm Sarah from Berkshire Dog Training. It's lovely to see you this evening, and yeah, I cannot wait to hear about Rachel's journey. I think it's a really personal story that we're bringing to you tonight, and we love doing that. And yeah, we're primed with some questions, and if you have any questions, then drop them in the message, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
So Rachel, if people have no idea who you are and what you do, can you give them a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me on, Claire and Sarah. It's a pleasure. Yeah, well, I'm Rachel Down, the founder and managing director of Boil Broth and the British Broth Company. Essentially we make bone broth and we've been doing it for quite some time. All our broth is human grade. We have a license to produce bone broth for humans and for pets in the UK. So we're extremely unique in that sense.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. And bone broth is something that I think we're seeing more and more of, but I know you're and it's more and more people are seeing it out there in the world, and we're seeing that it's beneficial for dogs, but your journey goes back quite a long way before then and how it all started, and I think it's just a fantastic journey. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that, Rachel, that'd be lovely to hear.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Well, crikey, it was 8 years ago now, nearly 9 years, but I'd had my two children, Jack and Scarlett, and I was quite later having my pregnancies. And I just found that, oh gosh, I was just so unhealthy. I was really unwell. My body sort of changed from being just this normal female, then all of a sudden to being pregnant and having children. And it takes its toll on the body anyway. But I was constantly suffering with urine infections and vaginal thrush, and amongst other issues, digestive problems. I was intolerant to different foods. I was experiencing things that I had never experienced before. And I always say that I spent 3 years on what we call the NHS roundabout, because I was constantly visiting the doctors, them telling me nothing was wrong, that, take a prescription pill and go away, come back again. And it was the same story, I had tests and, everything was coming back normal. And I just sort of got incredibly frustrated after 3 years, because I felt like my voice wasn't being heard in the doctors, no disrespect to doctors or anything, but it was just the way that the system is, and the health system is set up to be. So I decided to turn my back on conventional medicine, and that was back in 2017. And I just totally switched to being on a mission. I was literally a woman on a mission. I was like, right, if no one's going to help me, the only person that can do it is myself. So I went on this full-on research about gut health. I researched all my symptoms, what was going on with me, the health problems I was having. And I discovered that I was having an issue with candida overgrowth. Now, at the time, this was really not very well heard about. I think it's becoming more well known now, the fungal problems. But at the time, it was very, very unheard of. No doctors were talking about it. The only place I could go really to find about it was on Google, Dr. Google. And Yeah, and anyway, I discovered that candida overgrowth was caused from an imbalance in my gut bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, because of my urine infections during pregnancy, I'd taken a lot of antibiotics.
Yeah.
And as a result, that had depleted, the bacteria balance within the gut. Obviously, antibiotics isn't intelligent enough to say I'm only killing off bad bacteria. It kills off all bacteria that's in that location. And quite rightly so, but obviously that does mean that the good guys get wiped out in the gut. So over my journey of learning about gut health is you have to have that balance of good and bad. And if you have an imbalance where you have too many bad bacteria or bad fungi, then things can just become infested and grow out of control. And that was what was happening in my digestive system. So and as a result, those were the symptoms that I was experiencing, which was the thrush, the urine infections, the inability to lose weight, the digestive problems. So I was like, right, that's it. I've got to get rid of it. So I went about a mission to get rid of it, and I had to really focus on my gut health. So turning my gut health from being poor to good, and I did that through, I wrote a diet for myself. I wrote a book about it. It's called Be Candida Free, and it was basically just my process of what I went through to get rid of the fungus in my body and to rebalance my gut. So I literally stripped out all of carbohydrates. I reduced all sugars because that's what feeds fungi and bacteria. And then I started to focus on what I was feeding the gut, which is probably the key, really. So that's when I started with the bone broth. I read about broth, particularly in America, where it was very new, very much on trend over there, and even in Australia, that it helps to reduce the inflammation of the digestive system. And obviously it's got natural collagen in it. So it's just it was a good base for me to start on with healing my gut. And then I also started to make kefir water as well, which is a natural bacteria drink. To boost my probiotics in my digestive system, so I didn't have to pay for supplements. That was basically my thing. And the reason I went that was because my digestive system was so inflamed and really, in a bad way, that I just wanted to do everything natural for myself as much as possible. And I didn't look back. After 12 weeks, I'd lost 2.5 stone. And then over 2 years, I lost 6 stone. So it was a massive transformation for me. And then naturally, I just went into business because people were asking me about how I'd lost my weight and why I was looking so healthy and slim, particularly after I've had kids. And I just, and it was such an incredible experience for me because I was at home with the children and I had all these slow cookers bubbling away and they were literally taking over my house. I had cookers in the kitchen, and then I was out in the conservatory and I had the garden bench in there and slow cookers bubbling away, and then we're getting wafts of it, and then the next thing I know, I've got people literally queuing up outside my front door saying we want something for the top. And so I just naturally went into it and started to do some local presentations, women networking, all those sorts of things, and grew the business that way. But, you might be asking, well, why are you selling for dogs? How did Boil Broth come about? So the way that came about was because when I started to make the bone broth, I just truly believed that the nutrition was in the bones and that I needed as much bones as possible. So I didn't put any vegetables or anything like that in the cook. More bones for more bone goodness. And as a result, we did just get this lovely collagen jelly, but because there's no vegetables in it, it's perfect for dogs.
Right.
So people were coming to us and buying for their dogs. So once I was selling online, they were buying for their dogs, thinking, well, of hearing it's good for dogs as well. And the business just grew so quickly from that point. I mean, we were the first bone broth company in the UK.
Right.
And then obviously we were the first to hold the dual license for humans and for pets as well. So all of the bones that we get in are human grade. They're not what you call cat3. So a lot of the bone broth companies for pets, particularly in the UK, they use the cat3 bones, which are the bones that aren't suitable for human consumption.
Right.
They go for animal consumption only. But we believe in good, healthy nutrition from human grade products, and obviously we have to produce it like that anyway for human consumption. So, yeah.
Oh wow. And now you're a global company selling.
How did that happen?
So from a few slow cookers in your kitchen and wafting these smells everywhere, you're now a global brand, which is just...
I was curious whether or not you had dogs yourself and they kind of lent you into kind of, you know, sniffing out the products and making sure that they might be tempted and gave you the idea.
No, I wish I did. We don't even have a dog. It's so awful. We have plans. So hopefully soon we'll have a little Boil and Broth mascot, which would be lovely. But I think also when, you know, with dogs, it's such a commitment for yourself and your family that, you know, up until now with the business and how busy it's been, obviously the children being so young, it's just not been a great, that would have been really bad move.
We've had a comment from a lady in Brittany, Elaine, saying, you know, they're huge fans of Rachel and her products and stuff. So I think you've got enough champions out there, including us, that you know, supporting the dogs of the world. So so it'd be a great opportunity to talk a little bit about, you know, the dog, you know, the products for the dogs and the benefits. I mean, you know, I've got some here and I'll talk about that shortly. But, you know, from your perspective, Rachel, you know, why would somebody choose to give their dog bone broth?
Yeah, well, a great question. I mean, you know, look, first of all, humans are a great example of, you know, of how bone broth can transform lives. So first of all, I am that champion for that. And, you know, for dogs in particular, you know, the health system in the dog space is very similar to what's going on in the human space. And actually the digestive system of the dog is not too dissimilar from a human. So, I mean, we have the same functionality, anatomy. Yes, there are differences, but the way in which it works is very similar. And, you know, the challenges that humans have, particularly with digestive health, we're seeing exactly the same in the dog space as well. So this is everything from gut inflammation to leaky gut to candida overgrowth, which is what I've had, you know, IBD, IBS, you know, dogs and cats, they're not immune, you know, they're not immune from this. And I truly believe it's because of the food industry that's and obviously the medical industry that hasn't helped in this environment. You know, obviously we come from a highly processed, unnatural world now that, you know, the chemicals and the toxins in the environment are disrupting the gut health of dogs and cats. So, you know, for any owner that has a dog that's, you know, might have, it could be anything. I mean, look, you don't even have to take bone broth just for gut health. You know, gut health I champion as the primary source because it's obviously what helped me. You know, gut health is often, you know, I truly believe that we were one of the champions of gut health in the UK because for dogs anyway, particularly because nobody was speaking about it before we had the bone broth on the market. You know, but the gut health is vital for dogs, but also there are other things that it impacts as well. So if you don't have a healthy gut, then, you know, you're not going to have a good immune system. Your dog's not going to have a good immune system. You know, you might find that there's joint problems and you know, skin issues, yeast problems, you know, and it does all extend back to the health of the digestive system. So I truly believe that if you fix the gut first, then you're going to see overall wellness and benefit in your dog. Now, don't get me wrong, bone broth is not the single cure for a good gut health. You have to do other things to support the dog's wellness, you know, so eating naturally, you know, whether it be raw food, whether it be cooked, you know, as long as your dog is getting an unprocessed diet, I think that's the key.
Yeah. And it makes a difference because, like I say, there's just that it sounds like there's so many benefits to it, though. So having bone broth in the diet can make it a huge benefit. And I think, as we say, that's very much been, well, firstly, you have science to a scientific study that took place, so we can talk a little bit more about how that that backed up. And actually, that's probably a good point to go into that, that you actually have evidence of the benefits, not just what you've seen personally. There was a scientific study done, wasn't there?
Yeah, thanks.
Well, was it scientific or was it classed as a research study? I think there's technicalities in the wording, isn't there? Because does it have to be peer reviewed to be scientific or something like that? Or but it was definitely a research project.
It was a science-based research project, and so Carol, she's just the most amazing lady, Carol Hughes at Biome4Pets, and I heard a podcast. I heard her on a podcast, and I just fell in love with what she was saying, and she spoke all the things that I've been saying for quite a while. So I reached out to Carol and I said, because I'll be honest with you, I actually really wanted to do the study for humans initially, because I feel that it would have been really powerful as well to show, how this can be of benefit for humans as well as dogs. But unfortunately, because of the way that the health system is set up in this country, and the control, I should say, over the health of people and what gets put out there, we were unable to do it. So reaching out to Carol and having that opportunity to do it with the dogs and with Aberystwyth University was really powerful for us, because it was able to we were able to put the science behind the truth of the product.
Right.
So, and I feel that this is so important for brands that want to make particularly food brands or supplement brands that really want to make a difference in the space, is to really stand by what they believe in and what they're saying. And it was frustrating me a bit, because I was seeing a lot of new brands coming in, or existing brands bringing out bone broths, and other new brands coming in with their bone broths. And, there's a bone broth and there's a good bone broth, so a good bone broth is when you really know what you're doing, the science behind it, the nutrition, the process, what bones you use, how long you cook for, what's the ratio of everything. That's the key to a good bone broth. Other companies just chuck bones in the pot with water and whatever else and hope for the best, but it comes back to the quality of the bones, what else is going in, their processing, all that sort of stuff. So we wanted to be the standout brand to show that actually we stand by our products and what we believe in. So through Carol, we agreed to do this study where we took 33 dogs. They'd never had bone broth in their life before. We tested their gut microbiome before they had the bone broth. Then we gave them 4 weeks of broth, just of any the proteins that they wanted to choose from the website. And then after the 4 weeks of the broth, we then tested their gut microbiome again. And the results were really, really remarkable. So Carol, it was interesting because on her podcast, she mentioned about bone broth. So she'd already seen in her research anyway, in her studies, the impact that bone broth was having in the digestive system of dogs. So when I reached out to her and said this, well, she was very clear. Okay, well, we need to test these 3 bacteria. So we tested the Helicobacter, which is a pathogen bacteria. We tested the Clostridium, the SS Clostridium, which is another harmful bacteria. And then we also tested the Bifidobacterium, which is a beneficial bacteria. So in most of the dogs, they had a huge reduction of the harmful bacteria within those 4 weeks. And in all of the dogs, they had over a 1,200% increase of the beneficial bacteria. So it was just remarkable. So what it showed us actually was that bone broth is what we call a prebiotic. So a prebiotic behaves as food for the digestive system, or food for the bacteria in the gut. So, you might hear the probiotic term used. So the probiotic is the live bacteria, and the prebiotic is the food to help grow and colonize and multiply. And that's essentially what the broth did in these amazing 33 dogs. So, it was a fantastic study, and we probably don't do enough to get the results out there. We are a really small team still, so we're doing it.
We've had a couple of questions come in, Rachel. Elaine said, were the dogs in the study raw fed or kibble fed?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, we didn't get involved with their diet at all, because we believe that the bone broth is good for all diets. Now, the interesting point to that is that we did see a bigger improvement with dogs who were raw fed compared to those who were kibble fed. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So I truly believe, again, that's probably to do with the nutrients and the access to bacteria in the raw food, whereas obviously in the kibble it's more processed, and you've got you've got a combination of other ingredients in there.
That's great, and thank you. And Lana says, from the study, was that bone broth wet or dry or both?
So the dogs had our dehydrated broth, so it's no different really to the liquid broth. So when we go through our process of dehydration, we actually make the liquid broth first. So, and we have white label customers that we produce that for anyway, so they sell it off as frozen. But we, so after cooking that broth and going through that process, instead of freezing it down and putting it into pouches, we put it into our very large dehydrator and dehydrate the whole thing at a low, safe temperature. It takes about 4 days for it to all dry. Yeah.
I've tried doing that with vegetables in the air fryer, and it just takes forever. I can't even imagine what that must be like. You know, those apple slices. I think, it seems like a good idea because you watch some YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden you're like 4 days later, you're like, I'll just go to the supermarket and buy an apple slice. I can only imagine what processing must be going through in order to get that dehydrated.
Oh yeah, it's massive. I mean, but look, the broth comes out in exactly the same way that it went in. The only difference is it doesn't have any water in. So at that point, we then grind the broth down into the golden particles that you see, and then that hydrates back with boiling water. So the customers the pups on the scientific study, they would have had a mix of hydrating the broth back to its original state, rehydrating it to the collagen jelly, or sprinkling it on the broth. So yeah, there would have been a few ways of that.
Do you know, with regards to the scientific outcome and obviously the improvement in their gut health, was there any changes to their physical or wellness or anything like that were seen as well? Because behaviour and internal emotions, whether that's pain through or gut health, etc., can have a massive impact. That Claire and I see, if we see a dog struggling, we'll often recommend, and we'll go and see a vet or a physio in order to get some analysis done, because sometimes they may be displaying behaviour that we need more information on to help the client with support for the behaviours we're seeing. So hence I'm asking, because gut health can be something that we can improve and work on, but we may not. I'm just wondering if there was understanding about how that might have helped from a training perspective. I appreciate you're not a trainer in that regard, but just I think that would be interesting for our audience to hear about.
Yeah, well, actually, in you saying that, we did have, because I requested that everybody who took part in the study completed a questionnaire. So they completed a questionnaire before and after. So the questions on the questionnaire were, how is your dog's behaviour? And, are they anxious? So we had I had sort of a broad range, because I truly believe, like you, Sarah, that anxiety and, emotion and mood can extend definitely back to gut health.
I know that I'm like that. If I have an upset tummy, I'm proper angry. So I can only imagine. Then I can tell my other half about it, so it's dogs can't, can they? Bless them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the most important thing to that is that dogs can't speak to us and tell us how they're feeling. We can only go by their reaction and by their emotion and how they behave around us. Excuse me. So, we obviously wanted to get a feedback to see from our customer, or from those customers, whether there was a change in their behaviours. And yes, there was. We had several of the people come back and say that they found that their dog was calmer, that they were sleeping better, and that they were less anxious as well. And the one big thing that came out of just asking, so obviously this isn't, these are results not based on the data that came out of the university, but based on what people were witnessing and seeing with their dogs, was the number one thing was itching. Their dogs itched less.
Wow.
So again, it's just that inflammatory response that comes from the poor gut health.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, the greyhounds, sight hounds, don't they? They struggle with their skin conditions. Quite, I know your history with that, Claire, isn't it? So
gut
really
health
helpful.
with Izzy has been a challenge, and I think just with the dogs I see and work with, sensitive tummies are quite common in the sight hounds, and I think because adopted dogs may have a history of different diets before they are adopted, you don't know what kind of stomach you're adopting as the wonderful dog, kind of what the history is there, so what gut health you're adopting. So understanding this is really good. We've had a few more questions come in, Rachel, about the studies. So one is there been replication studies? Have any replication studies been done, or was it just the one?
Just the one. So interestingly, Carol and I are talking about doing a follow-up study. So this study will be particularly, so rather than taking a focus on just the 3 bacteria, we're going to actually look at the digestive system as a whole and the whole community of the bacteria. Now, Carol has been extremely clever, God bless her, and she has this incredible software, this AI software, that can help predicting health. So that's something that we're going to be really working on together. We're looking towards the back end of the year. So, that will be definitely, we'll be looking for participants for dogs. It won't, the rules for the last Biome Broth study was that the dogs couldn't have had broth beforehand. This time round, we're just going to say all dogs welcome. And we're going to just get as many dogs in as we can, get everything tested. We're not quite sure how it's going to work yet.
Yeah, we can talk offline about that. We might have an idea.
I'd imagine that we'll have a lot of interest. We did have a lot of interest the last time. We only took 33 dogs in the end because we wanted to get the study going. It was we just had to get it moving. But this time, we're going to have it a little bit more planned out, and just allow all dogs to come in. So that will be sort of the next study.
Oh, fabulous! And somebody's asked whether the study's published.
No. So, again, because it's not officially a science study. The only way that it's been published is on the website, on our website, and Carol as well. The people can go on to our website, boilandbroth.com, and they can download the free ebook. So I just compiled all of the results in the data into an easy to read ebook for people. It's free. It's on the website. It's just boilandbroth.com.
I've got the link. I'll put it in there for us.
Thank you. And another one I've got is, was there a specific protein that was used? And I think you said they could pick the proteins, so it wasn't specific proteins, it was a mix of proteins depending on what people wanted. And did the dogs have any specific proteins due to intolerance? But I think you said they just picked the appropriate ones for what people wanted to do.
It is, and that's a good question, because some people think that they've got to have certain proteins for certain reasons, but yes and no. The main thing I always say is that if your dog has got a sensitive stomach or allergies, and you really want to be looking at more of the novelty proteins, so that's the goat that we do, or the lamb or the venison, they're more gamey, so they're a bit softer on the digestive system. But all the broths, they all do sort of different things, I suppose. So the bovine broth, which is a beef broth, it's very high in type 1 and type 3 collagen. You've got the chicken broth, which is very high in type 2 collagen, so it's really good for joints and ligaments. Type 1, type 3 is better for the digestive system and the skin. So you can combine them as well. And on the British Broth Company, which is our website for humans, it's exactly the same product for pets, by the way. It's no different, just a different label. We have to have 2 licenses for it, but anyway, that's another story. But on the British Broth Company website, we actually do a multi-collagen capsule. So it's basically all 5 of our proteins. So we just exclude pork from it because some people don't want pork in their diet. But for dogs, we could do the full 6 protein range, and do something very, very similar, either as a powder mix or as the capsules.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Thank you. And so we've talked a bit about the benefits, and we've talked about the study. Is there anything that pet parents or us as humans should be looking out for? Because, as I say, the bone broth has taken off, and there seems to be a lot of companies that now produce bone broth.
Yeah.
And as you say, not all bone broths are the same quality. And I think I've always looked at ingredients for a way to tell if a bone broth is quality or if a product is quality. And we know you can get something that is chicken, or you can get something that's chicken flavored, which means might not even have chicken in it and stuff like that. Is there a way to tell with the bone broth the quality of the products? Because often the ingredients is the bone broth
and the processing too. These are two massive issues in the bone broth space. So
right.
So first of all, you're right, not all bone broths are the same. To find a good bone broth, if you're going to buy a liquid bone broth, then the things that you should look out for in the broth, it's better to buy frozen if you're going to buy a broth, because it's retained in its natural format. It means that when it's come out of the out of the pot, and if you're freezing it straight away, there's no nutritional changes from processing. There's some of the liquid broths that we're now seeing in those cartons, those UHT. So obviously I'm on the fence with those ones because of the processing that it goes through afterwards to get it into those cartons to make it safe and to give it a longer shelf life. So UHT means ultra heat treatment, and ultra heat treatment of broth can cause the proteins, the delicate proteins that are within the broth, to break down or denature so that they can't be absorbed by the gut. So they're not. Yeah, so they might be good for collagen, but they're not very good for anything else, because a lot of those proteins have been damaged during that high treatment process. But look, if you're looking for a collagen for your dog, then that's a great way to go for it. It is natural. I always say support British if you can. Look where your broths are coming from. It's such an important time to support our British farmers. They have a hard time of enough as it is anyway, and we need to be buying from our local brands and our local farmers. So if you can buy local, then brilliant. You can make it at home. People don't have to buy it. Good luck if you can make it at home, because it is and I can believe me, if you've got people in the house as well with you, then they'll all whinge about the smell.
You know from experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other broths really to be considerate are of these powdered broths. So these are a big bugbear for me because I don't like them. A lot of these broths are being imported from overseas, some of them from not such friendly countries, and their farming standards are really, really low. They'll also use cat-3 bones because it's a dog food product, which again means they're not suitable for human consumption. And I always think, if it's not suitable for human consumption, do you really want to give it to your dog? But these bone broth powders, so what they do with them is they don't make it as a bone broth. They literally extract the nutrients from the bones, and they do it through a chemical process of hydrolysis. So when the product comes out, it's very floury, and it's the same with spray dried and atomized bone broths. So you'll know the difference. They'll be very floury, very starchy. They'll probably weigh about, 400 grams, or between 200 and 400 grams. And you need a good tablespoon for a serving. But when you mix it, it'll be really clumpy, stick together. It's not a very nice product. And they claim that that's a bone broth, and it's not. And unfortunately, these products are they're just not very nutritious. A lot of them have maltodextrin in them and other harmful ingredients that they use to make them have a little bit more flavor. So
okay, that's interesting, because one of the things I love about your product is it is dehydrated. So I think I have used bone broth, and you have to buy certain quantities, and one of my dogs 25 kilos, but I've had 30 kilos in the past and things like that, and you buy in bigger portions, but then if you don't use it in certain times as well, it kind of, the shelf life is really limited on it, and you've got to keep part of it frozen and part of it defrosted and all of that sort of stuff. And then once it's been defrosted, there's question marks over refreezing it.
I know.
Whereas with yours, with the dehydrated, you can buy what you use, but you can freeze yours, can't you? So you can, we're thinking of enrichment in the summer. Sarah and I are huge fans of enrichment. We've had like Licky Mat on one of our lives. We've talked about freezing, and the number of dogs that I work with sight hand wise that don't like drinking as much as we want them to during the heat waves and things like that. So anyway, we can get hydration in them is huge, but we can freeze yours, can't we, after we've used it.
So I think that's the beauty of our product, is it's completely versatile, you know. So it's great for travel as well. So it's lightweight. If you're going on holiday, take your broth with you with your dog, you know, because often dogs get, you know, upset tummies being away. But yeah, you can hydrate it back to the liquid broth. So you just literally add hot water with some of the broth, mix it up. You can pour it over meals. You can give it as a drink. I think if you've got a dog who's poorly, then you would want to give them it as a drink to let the broth do the work on more of an empty stomach. Maintenance, it's fantastic just for adding to meals. I mean, listen, you can do it anyway, even if your dog's got a funny tummy, you know, but yeah, you can freeze it, so you can mix it up. So a way that you can do it is add a scoop of broth or a teaspoon of broth with 100 mils of hot water, and then you can put it into molds. You can make it fun. You can, you know, we've got so many videos of people like adding berries and fruits and other ingredients. And then, you know, we did an enrichment one, I think it was last year, where we had a fruit bowl made and instead of using water, they used bone broth. And
wow.
Just literally devoured this frozen fruit bowl in the heat of the summer. And, you know, obviously with summer coming up, it is a good time to be thinking about enrichment for your dogs. Broth is a great way to go. So if you can make some lovely broth treats, make them fun, make them interesting, and and help with hydration for dogs, because that's the other thing. You know, broth naturally contains a true natural 100% natural bone broth will contain magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So you'll be able to get that the hydration for your dog, particularly on a hot summer's day when they don't always drink.
Perfect.
That'll be a good tip, because I get that question a lot in the summer. In the heat waves, it's a big question that comes my way. And talking about like fun ways to use it, you very kindly we've both received some treats that we've been using with our own dogs, some bone broth treats. Sarah, I think here's one you made earlier packet in front of you.
Yeah, here we go. We would like to be on product points. You should have seen us with the Dagenham toys. We had about 20 each, you know. We were competing to say, I've got this one, but yeah. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sending the treats over, and you know, it's treats are one of the new products you've got, you know, that you have brought to the market. I think you said recently.
Yeah, well, we felt there was a bit of a gap in the market for bone broth treats. You know, we have quite a good international space, particularly around Europe. And a lot of our European customers were asking, you know, are you going to do a bone broth treat? And we just were researching it. We felt that we wanted to do a treat with the bone broth in it. So we actually use the dehydrated bone broth in the treats. So it's a very simple product. It's a natural product. It's air dried or dehydrated. And they're great. It's just another nice, I suppose, what do they call it? It's like a unique way to just get the broth into the you know.
I mean, they've been going down really well with my dogs and clients, and you know, one of the things I like about them is their versatility. So you can break them up to make smaller treats, and it, you know, you kindly give that advice on the back of the packet. Especially for small dogs, you know, they are a nice size, but actually they're a perfect size for one of the training games that I do a lot with the predation training, which is the bowling cue. So when your dog's running back to you, you actually teach them the bowling cue, so they get to know that that's a game of chase the treat. And so when they're coming back, they get to naturally understand that they've got that instinct to chase something, which is a predatory behaviour. And because it's food related, they then get to eat the treat and fulfill that predatory chain. So it's a really lovely journey for the dog, and it's a connection bond for them. So and because they are the shape they are with rounded size, oh my God, they can go miles. Seriously. I'm thinking that the other day. I was like, oh, and I'm terrible for doing stuff and never having my camera to hand or doing it afterwards, etc. So I will get some camera shots, videos of it.
Great, as we see your dog 100 meters away.
Exactly. She's especially Poppy. She just loves it. So she's just off. So she's like, yeah. So I'll make sure I get those and tag you guys but it is a really versatile treat in that sense. So so thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And Izzy, we've got Freddie and Izzy. I'm going to be honest, Freddie would eat anything. My little whippet would, adopted whippet would eat absolutely anything. But Izzy, my ex-racing greyhound, she's very particular. People will give her treats and she'll kind of turn her nose up at them and she won't take, or she'll take things and drop them on the floor. But definitely not happening with your treats. They are going down an absolute storm. She gets really excited if I get the packet. So Steph just said it sounds like Claire will ban the treats at training. I work with sight hounds, so all your ex-racing greyhounds, whippet, lurchers, so they love to chase, and we do a lot of chase rewards. But sometimes in the hall, when the treats bounce down the hall, we've got dogs going all over the place. But it's a great game to play in the park, and the dogs love it. So
lovely.
One of mine said that.
I love it. It's nice to hear that they're being well received. Obviously, they are a new product for us, so it was always difficult to know how they would go out there. And obviously, there's a lot of treats out there, so we felt that we're having to compete in a busy market. But we hope that the bone broth in them is an added bonus for the dogs. They are a little bit more expensive, but they are, it's a premium product. It's not, it's not. They're all human grade ingredients, even everything in it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Was there any other products that that people should be aware of?
Yeah, well, we're bringing out new products at the moment. One of the recent products that we brought out was the tallow balm for the nose and paws. So this is a bit of a different one for us, but we're quite we like to be sustainable at the business and try and reuse as much of our waste as we can to lower our carbon footprint, but also to repurpose the products because they're natural and healthy. So the tallow balm is literally as it is. It's the fat that we get from the bone broth that we repurpose then into cosmetics. So we sell for humans on the British Broth website. We've got 100% natural sunscreen that we sell on there with an SPF factor 30. And then we've also got just tallow balms on there that people apply to their bodies. And we felt that actually there was a bit of a gap in the market again for this product for pets. So it's quite new in the space. It's not very well heard of, but obviously people are putting on nose and paw balms onto their dogs, but they're not always natural. A lot of them are using petroleum products or other products that have harmful ingredients, and the nose and the paws is where the absorption happens the most and quickly. So it's having a natural tallow balm is great. So it only has 3 ingredients in it. Has the beef tallow, yum, slick safe. Has the beef and vitamin E as well for skin care. So it's a great product, and it's a perfect way to help be more sustainable as well, rather than throwing it all our way.
Yeah. I was just looking at the product on the website actually, and I love the fact you've got a beagle who's always got his nose to the ground, so very appropriate. To get into mischief and a beagle's nose, so well done on your marketing on that one. But
oh, that's fantastic. And you've very kindly given Sarah and I a discount to pass on to our customers as well, which is extremely kind and generous of you. So I believe they are live now, and we've got fantastic. We'll get those on the webs on the comments, but we've got Insight Hounds 20 or Berkshire 20 for 20% off. So thank you so much for that. That's very kind of you, and we'll get those out to our customers as well. But Rachel, this has been a fantastic conversation. There's so much in there and so much you're doing. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's fascinating to find out more behind, what what you've been seeing. And I think a big takeaway for me is, as I say, I've seen more and more bone broth in the market, but knowing the difference between the quality bone broth and the poor bone broth. And I think we're quite aware of that in food, and I think it's becoming more clear in supplements, and that we sometimes, as pet parents, we think we can be doing the right thing to support our dog, but the quality is not there, so you don't necessarily see the results, and then you don't think the products are that good, but it's down to the actual products that you're using.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, if there's one takeaway that I can give for anyone listening and watching this, it's just be natural. So be as natural with your own healthcare and your family's healthcare as well as your pets, because, you know, we live in this synthetic, toxic world, and the only way that we can retain our wealth, well, I say our wealth because our health is our wealth, is by being natural. So, you know, just really considering what you're all eating, you know, and what's processed, and supplements as well. You know, it's such a huge market, massive money making machine, and they'll tell you all the things that they want you to hear to make you buy the products. But, you know, you've got to look at those ingredients and see what they're putting in them. And most supplements are highly processed. So, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-supplements. I do believe that there's this place for them in health, in our own health and in our dog's health, but I don't believe that they should be taken for long periods of time. But if it's a natural supplement, then yeah, go for it. And just very quickly before we close, I just wanted to mention that, because there is a couple of conditions that people are always concerned, and they always email in to ask us whether bone broth is safe for their dogs for their dogs if they have these conditions. So the first one is chronic kidney disease. So we get a lot of questions about that for dogs and also for cats particularly. I know cats are quite prone to that condition. So yes, the bone broth is perfectly safe. As with all products, when you're introducing something new, is to just do it slowly. So people are quite be assured that it's okay to give bone broth, but just give small amounts, like 1 gram of our bone broth with, say, 10 mils of hot water. Let your dog lick it off the spoon, whatever, make it into 1 small ice cube and give it to him that way, whatever's best. And then the other condition is pancreatitis. That's another common condition that we get asked about. Again, it's same principle as well. You can give bone broth, just start and introduce slowly, and always choose a protein that your dog's not allergic to.
Brilliant.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Again, we have a few that I work with that can have pancreatitis, so that's really useful to know. So thank you. Oh, I think we've just had a last minute question come in around supplements. Bone broth is one thing that the dogs can have their entire life, that doesn't only have a single benefit. There's enough positives for gut health, ligament strength, joint mobility, and all other kinds of wonderful side effects. So that's from Lara. So it wasn't a question. Yeah, it was just a lovely roundup. So that was
brilliant. Well, she summed it up lovely, because that's exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah, what a great place to end. Thank you, Lana, for that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time, Rachel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been lovely to chat to you, and I look forward to having you on my podcast too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay. God bless. Bye. Bye.